Kim. This is Owen Sound City Council on April 1st, 2019. Council started off this evening in a closed session meeting at 6:30. During the closed session, we reviewed the council session of council meeting minutes from March 4th. Closed session meetings from March 4th. Closed session community services committee minutes from March 20th. Closed session Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee minutes from March 11th. And council reviewed one matter regarding a proposed or pending acquisition of land by the municipality respecting the Downtown River Precinct project, and direction was provided to staff. So we're at number 4 of the agenda, looking for any additional business, staff.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to discuss sponsored parking in the downtown core.
Anyone else over there? Okay, then to council, I think Councillor Thomas.
I have 2 items tonight, Your Worship, one on the upcoming volunteer fair and one on an open house at the library this coming Friday night.
Thank you, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Mayor Bai. I have 2 items. One is regarding the farmers market bathroom, and the second is regarding the landscaping in front of City Hall.
Thank you. Going that way, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Worship. One item on the Earth Film Festival.
Okay, Deputy Mayor almost did it. O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. One item, attended an event at Tom Thompson Art Gallery.
Anything about the T-shirt you're wearing, so I put you down for 2. I'll have a few items to just follow up on events that I've attended as well. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. Seeing none, so that's at number 5. Number 6 is confirmation of council minutes.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor O'Leary, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March 18th, 2019 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. 6B.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Leary, that the minutes of the closed session of the regular council meeting held on March 18th, 2019 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Number 7 motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Leary, that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
All in favor? That is carried. So we're now in Committee of the Whole. Just before I go any further, I forgot to mention Councillor Dodd is not able to attend. He's ill tonight and phoned a couple of hours ago. So, at number 8, we're having public meetings. First of all, I'm declaring that the first public meeting at 8A is open. That's zoning bylaw amendment number 28, proposed API hotel development at 1200 16th Avenue East. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submission to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party, to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds for doing so.
Through your worship, notice of this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies, posted on the city's website, and published in the Sun-Times on March 8th, 2019. The comments that have been received were included in the agenda package. For those of you who missed signing the sign-in sheet on your way in, it is located on the table just inside the door. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Municipal Act and the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to myself, the city clerk. And if you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the City of Owen Sound, care of the city clerk.
Thank you. So next is number 2, the presentation of the planning consultant. David's here. Welcome.
Evening, Your Worship, members of Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present here tonight. Would like to thank staff for all of their work in getting us here to this evening as well. They've been working to coordinate all the information, get information on the website, and provide information to us, as well as opportunity to discuss and create the presentation this evening. So thank you to them. Also, I haven't been to the renovated City Hall, so congratulations. It looks fantastic, and a pleasure to be here. And out of the hockey rink, as much as fun as that was, it's nice to be back here. Tonight, I just want to give a brief overview of the application, some idea of the location and what's being proposed, the changes that are being proposed to the zoning, and items that will be addressed as part of the review. Again, this evening is a public meeting, so we're here to listen to comments, receive information from the public, all of which then will form a final report and recommendation that will come back to council. I know that the applicant and their consultant is here as well this evening, so there'll be an opportunity to ask maybe some detailed questions on the design and vision to them as well following the presentation that I have. So this is the site on 16th Avenue East. I do want to point out that so the kind of yellow is the site. It doesn't really show up on your screen there. But we're also dealing with the Anpet subdivision, which surrounds this property as well, following this public meeting. So we're dealing with this area this evening and different proposals for the area. The development proposal is a 6-story 100-room hotel and a 2-story commercial building. The commercial building will have retail uses on the ground floor and office uses on the second floor. There's a proposal to have shared parking, so recognition that hotel and office and retail uses would be kind of working together to provide shared parking amongst all of the uses. This is the site plan that was provided with the application for the zone change. The lighter blue building is the hotel and meeting facility. The darker blue building is the commercial building. We'll get into some of the zoning requests, but just to point them out on the plan, a request is for a front yard setback reduction, so that's along 16th Avenue for the commercial building, from 10 meters to 7.5 meters. There's a request for a reduced setback for the patio area between what would be, if you're looking at this to the left, the Anpet subdivision will have a long-term care facility and is a zoned residential area, so request reduction there. I would just point out that the patio, though, is kind of the darker gray area where it says hotel and meeting facility, so it's on the opposite side of the residential. And then there's the request related to the parking reduction. But in general, this is the plan. There's access to 16th Ave, one shared access for both uses. The parking around both of the buildings, the plan shows fire route and loading and those areas. The details associated with this plan will fall out through site plan review, but this gives a good indication of the general direction that's being proposed. The applicant provided some renderings for the proposed development, and this gives you an idea of the proposed hotel, the height and the massing in relation to the commercial building, the retail, and the office. This is more of a street level, and then the other view that was provided would be a bird's eye view of the proposal. The lands kind of shown in green in front of the hotel building are also zoned commercial, and then lands to the rear are where we'll be discussing tonight the residential zoning and the residential proposal, and then lands behind the office building are zoned commercial. To date, we've held the pre-consultation requirements with the applicant. Application was made and deemed complete in January 2019, so all of the requirements for the application were met. Technical report was provided in March, and as noted this evening, the public meeting was, notice was given in March, and then the public meeting this evening. As far as information that was provided, this information has been posted on the town's website. So the documents include planning report and some additional addendum material that was requested, a traffic impact and parking study, functional servicing, stormwater management, the full site plan, heliport flight path study, and environmental noise assessment. Again, the information that was provided as part of the submission was very detailed and provided a good opportunity for review of what was being proposed, and the applicant and consultant have been very helpful in responding to any questions and comments up to this point. So we're thankful for that. This is the official plan, the designation East City, or sorry, arterial commercial. So the use that's proposed, sorry, it's East City commercial. The use that is proposed, hotel, retail, and office, those are permitted within the official plan. The existing zoning is retail commercial. There's special provisions and holding provision on the lands. What's being proposed is continuing a commercial zone with site-specific provisions that relate to height increase for the hotel, the reduced front yard setback that I mentioned, the reduced setback for the patios, and then the reduced parking. The application was also proposing to remove the H provision on the lands. This is a bit small, but this is essentially a table that's identifying the zoning requirements of the C2 zone and what's been provided, and then what is required as it relates to the zoning bylaw. So you can see here where there's deficiencies associated with parking and the outdoor patio setback, the maximum building height, and the minimum front yard setback. So those are all requests that have been made as part of the site-specific zone change application for the lands. The policy framework that we'll be reviewing as it relates to the application will include the Planning Act, Provincial Policy Statement, the County of Grey Official Plan, the Owen Sound Official Plan, and the Owen Sound Zoning Bylaw. Just to give some idea of items that we're working through and we've identified that need to be further considered as part of the process, we'll be reviewing the submissions associated with the traffic impact study and parking analysis, review and analysis of the parking calculations as it relates to the proposed reductions, a review of the compatibility of the patio with the adjacent residential uses, traffic access to the site, shadow study results associated with future adjacent residential uses, review of the environmental noise assessment, and this relates to proposed HVAC equipment and potential mitigation measures because of the use in relation to adjacent zoned residential land, a review of the previous consent application, and if there are any requirements in that consent application and making sure those are addressed through the current applications, and then any public and agency comments that are received this evening or through the review period. So next steps, tonight's the public meeting. We'll gather the input from this evening, consider all of the input that's provided. We'll have a summary of that. We'll have discussion with the applicant as it relates to any comments or questions or issues that arise from the review, and an opportunity to work with them in response to those. And then a final recommendation report would come back for consideration. That's my presentation this evening.
Good, thank you. Now, did you say that the applicant may want to speak to it as well?
My understanding is the applicant has a presentation.
Okay, is that now or is that later? We might as well do it now, yeah, before we, sure, that'd be great.
My name is Michael Larson. I am a planning consultant. Oh, maybe you don't even need that. I don't know. The planning consultant for the applicant. Dave did a great job of giving an overview there at the beginning, so I won't waste too much time on that background. Really give you some more additional details and any questions that you have for me. So Dave went through the planning application. Largely relates to removing the holding symbol that would then implement the C2 regulations. And then from there, we're looking at addressing parking deficiency, front yard setback, hotel height, and then outdoor patio. This is the map that Dave also had, the zoning. So as was mentioned, the proposal is for a 6-story, 100-room hotel, 2-story commercial building, 131 space shared surface parking lot. Now, this is looking at increasing jobs and economic activity on the property and in the existing built-up area, increasing incremental property tax for the city, enhancing the vitality and aesthetic quality along 16th Avenue and on the property, increasing the availability of services and amenities to the community, intensifying land use that's slated for development that's in a manner respectful and compatible with the surrounding uses, utilizing existing municipal services, and then providing development that avoids natural and cultural heritage impacts. So we did see the site plan earlier, so just the key points there is that we do have one access point from 16th Avenue. The hotel has been sited towards the rear of the property, and then the future commercial in front. Dave also included some of these renderings. I've put them in here more for reference. If there's any questions, we can go back and have a look at them. So that is the view from 16th Avenue. The bird's eye view where you can now see the entry and then the parking that is located across the front of the commercial building. These are the elevations of the commercial building. And then the proposed front elevation of the hotel, the rear elevation of the hotel, and the side elevations. The traffic consultant transplant prepared a TIS that's been submitted with the application and is available for review. So their findings found that there would be a minimal impact on the existing road network associated with this proposal. Recommended no future road improvements. So they saw that the area had intersections that were evaluated. They're continued to operate at acceptable levels of service in the weekday AM and PM, as well as Saturday. That's the proposed site access for turn lanes on 16th, so the northbound and southbound. They did a warrant analysis, found that the southbound right turn lane wasn't warranted, didn't meet that test. The northbound did meet the test, but they did an analysis looking at things like length of queuing that would be anticipated and other analysis, and determined that they felt the existing configuration on 16th would be adequate. So as the next point indicates, they found there would be a delay of about 3 seconds or less for a northbound left turn vehicle. So their recommendation and their professional opinion was not to construct that left turn lane. From a parking perspective, the 131 spaces include 6 accessible. There's also 14 bicycle spaces. Now, you would be looking at a deficiency of about 42 spaces. So TransPlan did do an extensive analysis and have come back and responded to additional questions from city staff. So what they did was they looked at 5 proxy sites in the area that were similar in terms of building site, massing, and then uses in the building, so having meeting rooms, all those types of things. So what they found was that the average parking demand was 0.84 spaces per room, rather than the 1.2 that the zoning looks for. They also looked at interaction of uses on the property and indicated that they felt like the interaction between those uses, the parking demand would be about 116 spaces, so that the 131 would be adequate. And that's based largely on the idea that the peak times are different for the hotel versus the commercial building. From a servicing perspective, we do have servicing in the area. The site plan approval process will go into more detail about how the property will be serviced, capacity, but there is also the mechanism there to collect any outstanding frontage charges that were involved with the servicing. Surrounding land uses, there is existing commercial plaza to the north that has the Pioneer, Tim Hortons, and Meridian. The south is a 1-story commercial building. To the west is the vacant zoned residential land, and then to the east is the existing 4-story retirement home. So we can see the 4-story retirement home that is across the street, as well as the surface parking area. And then this is the view if you're looking north on 16th Avenue with the subject property on the left. I won't go through the planning designations unless there are specific questions here. Dave went through that. Just to note that we are outside of the Niagara Escarpment Plan area and also outside of the Greenbelt. These are the zoning regulations on the left that would apply in the C2 area with the special provision 1479 removed. So you can see here where maximum building height is H, 18 meters. The front yard setback of 10 meters. So these are what come into play once 1479 is removed. And what 1479 on the right did was restrict the uses that could be in place to a public park, single detached dwelling, or a home occupation. So removing the holding symbol then allows the C2 to move forward. So as I mentioned, I prepared a planning justification report and urban design report for the property. My recommendations in there are that the proposal conforms to the provincial and region and local municipal policies, and that the zoning bylaw will facilitate use of the subject property in a manner that's consistent with these policies. Again, I provided a lot of detail here I won't go into unless there are specific questions about the official plan for Grey County and the city. Just a couple of quick notes here about the city's official plan. The proposal will increase employment and commercial land use on the site and in the area. We've targeted a site that is away from natural environmental features. It's in the primary settlement area under the county plan and is in the East City commercial designation of the local plan. So the zoning bylaw is really looking to bring, what we're trying to do with the amendment is to bring the zoning bylaw designation into conformity with the county and city official plans by providing that full range of commercial uses. The current holding symbol doesn't allow that to happen. So what we're looking at is how we do that, and the holding symbol really does provide that mechanism to ensure development is appropriate for the property before anything can proceed. So I think that's a general way of looking at why that holding symbol is there. This may be a little small, but just a couple of urban design considerations. The existing municipal sidewalk is being maintained in conjunction with enhanced landscaping along 16th Avenue. There are internal sidewalks that are being connected to the municipal sidewalk, so there's direct connections to the front of the commercial building and into the site, so avoiding conflicts with vehicles. The pedestrian crosswalk areas are clearly marked and with different materials to provide that separation of vehicles and pedestrians. The commercial building and hotel have awnings and other treatments to provide weather protection from pedestrians. The building have been configured to provide screening from the wind by having most of the activity in the site internal to the property. The commercial building is situated to bring the building closer to the street edge, so that's why we're asking for that front yard setback reduction, so that you're getting it closer to 16th rather than having that large area before you get to the building. The building heights transition into the site, so the 2-story is provided closer to the street with the additional height provided at the rear. The building height that's requested reflects the highest portion of the building, so the parapet area. The majority of the building does sit under that maximum height, so it's those parapet areas that are over and at the 23 meters. The 6-story building will be similar in height and scale to that existing retirement home across 16th Avenue that we looked at. The parking is being provided towards the interior and away from the street, so the city's policies do discourage seeing parking at that street level. So it really is that balancing act of landscaping, open space area, with parking that's considered reasonable for the development. Having one driveway to the site then minimizes disruption to 16th Avenue and also pedestrian access on the sidewalk. And then finally, the shadow study showed that there's only short periods of time throughout the day where you would see shadow impacts outside the limits of the property. So this may be a little bit small. This is provided in the application. But what the study showed was different times of the year where it was undertaken, that for the most part, that shadowing does occur interior to the site. Just at certain times where you might see limited periods of time where it does move beyond the property limits. From a significant view corridor study, we did take a look at that as well, and that we found that there's a relatively limited impact to that view if you're looking down 16th Avenue from what's being proposed. By providing the 2-story commercial building at 16th and then the 6-story in the rear, you're minimizing that impact to the streetscape. We're also enhancing the streetscape and its subject property relative to existing conditions for not only views but also for pedestrians and motorists. And the building has been designed with high-quality materials, articulation, glazing, to give it that positive aesthetic from the public realm. So with that, I will leave it open to questions, clarifications, any drawings, plans you'd like to see more, and go from there. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. I don't think there's going to be any questions from us just yet. Next will be comments from the public. You doing it? Or am I doing it? Okay. So we invite members of the public to come up to the podium, state your name, and please make your statement. Oh, and the municipality you reside in as well, so please welcome. Go ahead.
Your Worship, councillors, others in attendance, thank you for this meeting this evening. My name is Alan Pearson. I live on 14th Avenue East within the city of Owen Sound.
So just to confirm, you sent us a written documentation earlier?
About
as well?
the next item on the agenda, not about this.
Good, thank you.
But having sat through the presentation pertaining to the hotel and the commercial development, I would like to express 3 concerns.
Yep.
That I'm sure the developer will be able to fully alleviate any concerns that I have. First concern is the impact on traffic along the 10th Street extension. At the time that the 10th Street extension was approved by city, there was a lot of concern expressed by residents directly in that area about increased amount of traffic going to and from the hospital. I understand there is a provision in place that prohibits ambulances from driving along the 10th Street extension in order to alleviate those traffic concerns. There is a rather significant median along that section of 10th Street in order to manage and decrease the amount of traffic that it would influence the residents in that area. I would just invite the applicant for this development to take a careful look at the 10th Street extension and what impact upon traffic upon that street their development would have. Second concern is the former OSCVI High School, now the East Ridge Primary Grade School, that is also directly in that area. Being a primary grade school, we are, of course, always concerned about the safety of our children. And although the school board has installed the appropriate fencing around the area, we all know just how rambunctious children can get. I have pictures in my mind of an increased amount of traffic going to and from this hotel and commercial development, passing along both the street perimeters of the new primary school. And I would just like to be assured that proper safety precautions have been taken to ensure that any increase in traffic would not pose any increased hazards to our children attending that school. The third concern I have is the parking situation. For the developer to suggest that less than 1 parking space per unit would be adequate based on what other hotels in the area have, I think is a bit short-sighted and not fully informed of our own local situation. During our summer months, we have a large number of very successful social events that do take place, notably the Salmon Spectacular. And hotels do get booked up to capacity with no vacancies left at all. Especially for the Salmon Spectacular, those coming into town usually come in with rather large vehicles pulling trailers with boats in tow and needing, even if anything, a greater amount of parking facilities for their oversized vehicles and trailers. I wonder if the developer has taken into consideration these extra demands that the parking would have from such events. Is the parking spaces within the plan the minimum that would be called for, or are the parking spaces large enough and sufficient in number to accommodate these social events that we have in our city? Thank you.
Good, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this matter? Go ahead.
Hi, Peter Reed, I actually reside in Georgian Bluffs. I believe at a previous meeting sometime last year there was talk about the accessibility requirements in hotels, and I believe it was 10% of the rooms were supposed to be accessible. I could be completely wrong on that. My concern is only 6 accessible spots for that whole development. 100 rooms plus the commercial, retail.
Just to be clear, when you say accessible spots, you're talking about parking spots?
Parking spots, yes.
Good, okay.
Yeah. So if the hotel's requirement is 10% of the rooms to be accessible, that would be 10 spots right there in parking, assuming that they required those spots. So my concern is the amount of accessibility there and the parking for it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this matter? Seeing none, last chance. Still seeing none, so that concludes our comments from the public, and I can now close this meeting, correct? So I declare this public meeting closed with regard to the API hotel development. Next on our agenda is 8B, which is official plan amendment number 9, zoning bylaw amendment number 27, plan of subdivision 42T-18501, proposed ANPAT residential development at 1585 16th Avenue East. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound to the local planning appeal tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted or the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted or the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound in respect to the proposed plan of subdivision before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the draft plan of subdivision, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound to the local planning appeal tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound in respect of the proposed plan of subdivision before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the draft plan of subdivision, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Through your worship, notice of this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies, posted on the city's website, and published in the Sun-Times on March 8, 2019. The comments that have been received were included in the agenda package. For those of you who missed signing the sign-in sheet, It's just on the door, just on your way in inside the door. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Municipal Act and the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the official plan amendment process, zoning bylaw amendment process, and plan of subdivision process, and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to myself, the city clerk. And if you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound on the proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, or draft plan of subdivision, you may make a written request to the City of Owen Sound, care of the city clerk.
Thank you. So, Mr. Aston, you presenting on this one? Yeah.
Thank you again. So this public meeting relates to the Anpet residential subdivision. Includes official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision. Similar to the previous public meeting, this evening we're looking for input from the public. The application is in process in the sense of it's been circulated to agencies for review and internally within the city for review and comments as well. So this evening we'll take that information and then move forward. So this is the site location here. As I mentioned earlier, the hotel application is really just to the west of the property, north of where it says Manulife Building. So these lands are the larger block in the area. 14th Ave East is located to the west of the property, and that includes the single detached dwellings that would back onto the site. The lands to the north are commercial, generally existing commercial residential uses. And then there's the Manulife Building at the intersection of 10th Street East and 16th Ave East. So this application is proposing residential uses, stormwater management, and connection of 14th Ave through the site to 16th. So a total of 321 units are being proposed in a mix of residential uses, semi-detached units, townhouse dwelling units, cluster townhouse units, just a different form of townhouse that don't have frontage on a public street, apartments of 4 stories, seniors residence, and it's been called retirement residence, seniors residence, or long-term care. That's one thing that we're working with the applicant to really get an understanding of what's being proposed there. But 4 stories, 120 units. The stormwater management pond and the extension of 14th Street East. This is what the plan looks like. You can see to the north there's a triangular polygon shape. That's the stormwater management pond. There's a proposed trail that's linking around the back or to the north of that pond down to the western limit of the subdivision, which would provide trail connections through and a connection to the existing trail on 14th Ave East. I mean, the street's all mixed up, I apologize. But there's an existing trail connection that they connect to. The larger blocks that are shown with the cul-de-sac, the one to the north is proposed as the seniors residence or the retirement. The one at the end of the bulb would be the apartment style residential uses of 4 stories. The cluster townhouse is to the west of the bulb. That would be developed on private roads. There'd be common amenity areas or common element areas. And also to the north, that also would be a private road with townhouses and shared facilities. This process, there was pre-consultation. The application was deemed complete in 2018, and notice of that was given in October 2018, a technical report in March, and notice of the public meeting just following, and the public meeting this evening. The information that was requested as part of this application, again, it's also posted on the city's website, but the information that was provided, a planning justification report, traffic impact study, stormwater management report, water servicing review, draft concept plan, archaeological assessment, and flight path study. This is just the plan of subdivision again. I do want to point out that the plan of subdivision was draft approved in 2006. Since that time, what's proposed here, there are some common elements associated with the location of the storm pond and the road connection. However, the differences include the different types of housing form and density, and the local street pattern internal to the subdivision. So a new application was requested, and that's what's being considered now. The official plan currently designates the lands residential low density and open space. You can see the green area is the open space that's related to the stormwater management pond, and then the park/linear trail area that provides that connection. The street pattern you can see here is different. It's more of a crescent than the cul-de-sac that's being proposed now, and the yellow is the low-density residential that's existing in the official plan. By comparison of the two, here's what's existing and what's being proposed. So you can see the stormwater management pond, the street connection through the site is the same. The cul-de-sac is really the major change in the street network. And then the density that's being proposed, the darker gray areas are where the medium and high density residential, so the seniors housing, the apartment, 4-story apartment style, and the townhouses are being proposed. The existing zoning is R4, medium density residential, multiple residential with special provisions. What's being proposed is R5, and then an R4 zone, so maintaining an R4 zone on the property with special provisions associated with setbacks and height and coverages and lot widths. Something that we're working with the application to really try and define as far as what is going to be necessary to provide for the types of housing uses that are being proposed and the different forms between a street fronting townhouse and a cluster townhouse. So just like the official plan amendment, the zoning bylaw amendment will be providing for the higher density type uses in the darker gray area, the stormwater management pond, and then the lower density uses to the north of the street backing on the stormwater management pond. From a policy perspective, looking at all of the provincial, the Great County, and the Owen Sound official plan, and the Owen Sound zoning bylaw. Items that we've identified currently to be addressed are to confirm the official plan and zoning bylaw request, and then ensure conformity with those. So kind of finalize some of those details of the zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment for purposes of what's being proposed. Understand and finalize details regarding site and building regulations for each of the blocks. So there's general information and some conceptual designs, but what we want to do here is work with the applicant so that when this zoning bylaw is put into place, it's covering what they're looking for as far as a proposal, rather than having to further amend or go for variances, and just make sure that a full understanding of what's being proposed can be brought forward for consideration. Updated phasing plan, just an understanding of how the blocks and the lots and will work together in context of extending the road and providing the stormwater management pond. Parkland dedication and how that is to be considered, calculated and addressed. Design details for the cluster townhouse blocks. Again, there's some good conceptual information, but a better understanding of the types of the type of the product will assist with understanding parking requirements, setback requirements, and those types of details. For example, setbacks associated with the townhouses to the existing residential uses. Review the traffic impact study, and then understanding and assessing public and agency comments that will be provided. So next steps, gather information, consider all of the input that's received. Again, provide that in a summary to the applicant, and meet with the applicant as may be required to understand any changes that may be required, responses to comments, to move forward with the final recommendation report. That concludes my presentation.
Good, thank you. Ms. Coulter, we've got Ms. Spencer here to present behalf of the applicant, but it's showing up as 9A in the agenda. Would it not make sense to be consistent like the last one and maybe ask Ms. Spencer to go now before we get the comments from the public? It may answer some of those questions. Go.
Thank you for your presentation. I just received a letter tonight from Mr. Pearson, and I'm sure he's going to speak to it later. But while you're on your feet, he raises the issue of he owns a single-family home that will back onto one of the proposed townhouses. There's concerns raised by him in this letter about the swale not being wide enough and so forth. Can you speak generally to those drainage issues?
Through your worship, thanks for noting the letter. I did receive a copy of that as well before this evening and did review it. As far as the details and the grading, we don't have information to speak to that now. I think that's certainly a comment that we'll look into. And as far as the compatibility and the residential backing onto what's proposed as residential, again, that's something else we'll be looking at in context of the type of use and the details associated with setbacks and heights and those considerations. So.
But if I could press you a bit, surely you know whether the proposed distance between his property and the townhouse, which he indicates will be quite tight, surely you would know now whether that potentially is a solvable problem or not.
Just before you go, David, I'm going to go to Ms. Coulter here.
Certainly, I don't want to preempt the comments from Mr. Aston because he did prepare the technical report on this application. I think he indicated that there is some information with respect to the design of those townhouse blocks that will be required in order that we can finalize our review. Normally, at the public meeting stage, we like to, as Mr. Pearson has provided an excellent set of comments in his letter that was provided today, we like to take that feedback. We'll consolidate all the feedback from agencies and the public, bring it back to council in a subsequent report, reviewing each of those issues with a detailed analysis of that for you at that time.
So we're a little premature just at the moment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Spencer, welcome. Get you to push the little button there so the red light comes on. There we go.
Thank you.
Now we can hear you.
I appreciate you.
Thank
you, Brianna. In your grace, I appreciate you putting my presentation forward. I did not want to duplicate the discussion that's been had this evening thus far, so I will be here to give you a brief presentation of what the end look is for this plan of subdivision. It's to give a long-term care facility in one component, a hotel as a side component, and just a position where people can live at their end years, and possibly they might not be at their end years, but just somewhere they can share their lives and not necessarily be taken away from living in their own home. And that is, you know, my client's end goal is to keep people in their homes. And it's 321 units, and, you know, as you can attest to, and I'm sure council is very well aware, my client is a very good member of the community, and he's very expertise in keeping things at home. Let's keep it that way. So at the end of the day, I'll keep it simple. Yes, there might be exponentially small things that we have to deal with in terms of side yard setbacks. We understand that, we appreciate that, but the ultimate goal here is to not create something that is not incompatible with the existing neighborhood. And I think we can all appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I'm right here right now, so go for it.
Seeing none.
All right.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now's the opportunity for comments from the public. So again, if you wish to speak to this matter, I ask you to come to the microphone, state your name and your municipality, and give us your comments. Go ahead, Mr. Pearson. Yeah.
Your Worship, councillors, city staff, and public, thank you again for indulging me. I won't read off the letter, as a copy has already been obviously provided to the city council and other staff. I did bring additional copies with me. I would just like to note that I made a couple small mistakes in my letter. I identified 10th Street as 10th Avenue, so the revised copy has made those corrections. A couple of other points that I would just like to bring to the attention of all concerned. Is it possible for us to have the map of the development brought back up, please?
Maybe.
Sure thing. Keep going back to that one right there. Yes. Living on 14th Avenue East, I have a very personal appreciation of the geography in that specific area of our city. The elevation difference between 14th Avenue East and 10th Street East is quite significant. It is possible to stand on 10th Street and look down onto the peak of a two-story house on 14th Avenue. So I think it's pretty obvious to those of us who live in the area that the difference in elevation is considerably more than 30 feet. Consequently, there is a significant amount of storm water that runs off of the hill, as we call it, creating virtual rivers both on the street itself and in the swale that is within the city's right-of-way along the east end of the properties that are on the east side of 14th Avenue. When I look at the map, and this is something that I would like for everyone to be in mind of here, it's hard to tell, but it looks like the map does give an indication of the partial retaining wall that is built parallel to 10th Avenue. That, I say it's a partial retaining wall because it doesn't actually go all the way down to the elevation of 14th Avenue East. It actually does start quite high up. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the map there is a pathway indicated between two of the lots on 10th Avenue. The hill actually starts at about the midpoint of that pathway that you can see on the map and rises up considerably so. Where the townhouses in the developments that the developer proposes to build, the two that are in the bottom left-hand area, one aligned north-south and the other aligned east-west, I'm concerned about their location in relation to the hill. I can't help but think that for the north-south aligned townhouse, its south wall, and for the east-west aligned townhouse, its south wall, is actually going to be inside the hill. or if not inside it, very, very close to it. I'd also be concerned about possible flood damage in the basements of those properties.
Good, thank you very much. Comments have been recorded. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this matter? This is your opportunity. Not seeing anyone else coming. I thank everyone who has spoken well to both matters. So I now declare the second public meeting closed. Oh, did I skip?
No, just a note to anyone here, if you make sure you sign your name and email address as the next report is prepared, we'll make sure that we send a notice to you so that you have a chance to look at that report and continue to follow this process along with council. So please, if you would, leave us your name and your contact information. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And again, thanks everyone who has come and presented and given us the information. So next, number 9, we're down to 9B actually. Laura Wood and Meredith McFarlane are here to present to us. Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship. My name is Laura Wood. A few years ago, I moved to Owen Sound with my husband, Jack Goad. We're very happy to call Owen Sound our home, and we're both working hard to give back to our community. Last September, 15 members of our family and friends joined together to pick up trash along the East Harbour in an informal way. It was a first for all of us, and we were amazed by the amount of litter, and in particular the number of cigarette butts that we were able to gather in 2.5 hours. In total, 81 pounds of garbage, 28 pounds of recyclable material, and 2,430, and yes, we counted them, cigarette butts were collected. We understand that this was on the agenda at the last meeting, and we thank you for your patience. We were not able to do a deputation at that time. Picking up trash for a couple of hours is a very small effort, but it really opened our eyes to not only discarded waste, but confusion around recycling and the toxic impact of litter, especially in our water. As a result, many of our Waste Watchers groups have made changes in how we operate on a daily basis. Now we would like to share what we have learned to help others discover how small changes in our daily lives can result in big changes for our community. I'm delighted today to introduce a local young person who is helping to lead the April 20th trash pickup. Meredith McFarlane is a grade 12 student at St. Mary's, and she would like to tell you a little bit more about our plans.
Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Meredith McFarlane, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. I've decided to participate in this event because of my awareness of the importance of our environment. Although it won't be large, I believe that this event will make an impact on our community. Reducing single-use plastic and toxic waste is important to me because it is my and future generations that will have to deal with the consequences. This event's goal is to raise awareness and create a consciousness regarding our habits and how they affect our planet. This year, our group has invited Rochelle Bryn, a woman who founded A Greener Future Foundation, to participate. Rochelle works hand-in-hand in local communities in Ontario to promote environmental preservation through organized litter cleanups, educational programs, and events. Since she began, over 1 million pieces of litter have been picked up, mainly around Lake Ontario. We are delighted that Rochelle has agreed to come to Owen Sound and are looking forward to learning more about how we can make a difference starting in our community. I would also like to mention that we have the support of Miller Waste, who will be providing access to their land for our sorting site as well as garbage and recycling bins for our event. We are thankful for Council's approval for this event and the other support that will be supported, as outlined in the March 18th meeting material that you received. We see that the city is also supporting another trash pickup with the Sydenham Sportsmen's Association for the downtown area around the same time. And we think that this is a wonderful idea to spread awareness for a good cause. The reason I am here today is that I would like to personally invite you, Your Worship, and every council member to participate in our events. The trash pickup is from 1 to 3 p.m. on April 20th, and we will meet on the east side of the harbor, just north of the Grey Bruce Health Unit. From 4 to 6 p.m., we will be hosting a Talking Trash social at the Frog Pond Cafe. Rochelle and local enthusiasts will make presentations, and we hope to learn more from one another. Thank you again for your time and support, and we look forward to seeing you there.
So how many volunteers are you looking for?
So our goal is to have around 30 to 50, which is a perfect size because it's manageable, and we don't want to make it too big, and we think that we can make an impact through a small group.
So Saturday, April 20th, I think, is Easter long weekend?
Yes.
And so you're going to be meeting just before 1 p.m.
Yes.
Just by the cement silos.
Mm-hmm.
If they find their way there, they should be able to find you.
Yes, I'll be there.
Do you have a website or anything that if people want information before that they could contact you?
Yes, we do. We have a Facebook page. Yes, and then there's a link to sign up.
So if they go into the Facebook page, what's the name of your Facebook page?
It's a Greener Future / events. If they go to that website, they'll be able to sign up. Okay. And then we do have an event page on waste for the Talking Trash social event on Facebook as well. And also, do you want to mention the information you've got?
So I have a bit more information here, if I would be able to give it to you.
Great. Go ahead.
That's all I have.
Just that you presented it? Okay. So on paper, again, Saturday, April 20th, 1 to 3, Waste Watchers trash pickup. Mm-hmm. Sign up online at agreenerfuture.com/events or at Facebook, and then you're doing a Frog Pond Cafe event, Talking Trash, from 4 until 6.
Yes, Your Worship.
Good. Now, did you say there's another event with Sydenham Sportsman? Is that a different day? I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but...
That's okay. No, it's the same day. It's going to be happening downtown, and it isn't related to us, but we were just wanted to show our support.
So Sydenham Sportsmen are going to be closer up the river?
Downtown. We're going to be up the sound of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions? Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Mayor Boddy. I do have a couple of points. Firstly, congratulations to you and all the volunteers that are going to help you out. And before it slips my mind, there's a website or an organization called the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup you're likely already aware of. And your pickup area sounds like something they might be interested in having you share your data with them.
We probably will do that. Thank you very much. We actually used that last September for our pickup, and we provided the data to them. A Greener Future looks at the data a little bit differently, and so they probably will be categorizing what they pick up for a Greener Future people. They all have different ways they like to tabulate these things. It's still waste. Yeah.
Okay. No, I appreciate very much what you're doing. I represent, or I'm a part of a lot of runners in our community, and when you slow life down a little bit and you're not driving past the waste, you see the garbage and the refuse. And we had a cleanup day at the end of April last year. Various runners met, and we branched out to what we witnessed as 4 of the most garbage-laden areas in this area, including one at the headwaters. We'll call them the headwaters of the Sydenham, and that was just south of what's commonly known as Lincoln Park. The trash we picked out of the garbage, out of the ditch, was in the hundreds of pounds, including a car bumper. We had one group that their goal was to go from 26th Street on the rail trail to Range Road. They made it 1 block, and the volume picked up that morning was enough to fill a Works Department truck. It was staggering, and even the amount of empties, we donated $8 to the Grey Sawville Conservation Foundation for tree planting. So it's sad, actually, how much garbage is out there, really and truthfully. So thank you very much to your initiative for taking a lead and spreading awareness on it. So.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank both of you for coming, and I hope you have a successful day.
Thank you very
I
much.
think I'm going to be out of town on Easter long weekend, but we'll see. If I'm around, I'll be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Down to number 10, public question period. Seeing nobody move quickly. Correspondence for which, number 11, for which we have none. Down to reports. I wonder, Council, if we moved 12E up to the start, if anyone's feelings would be heard around Council. Let's putting Ms. Coulter on the hot seat a little bit earlier if you wish to present that.
Certainly. Thank you, Your Worship. This is a request by Georgian Landing, and Mr. Giorgio Hyderi is here this evening respecting the city's residential development charge relating to his 39-unit apartment building currently under construction near the Bayshore Community Center. So a detailed timeline is provided for Council relating to the approvals for this development. The development charges bylaw is very clear in terms of when the development charge is payable, and it's on the date of the first permit. So that was just last week. So you may wonder if they brought their application in for their building permit shortly after they received site plan approval in November, why isn't it just okay? So it's because the development charges bylaw is very clear. It's payable on the date that we issue the first permit. So Council authorized the conditional building permit agreement at your meeting on March 18th, and then we issued the building permit on March 26th, and work certainly started last week. So I think there are some circumstances that merit consideration. Following site plan approval, which happened November 19th, the building permit application, the plans, the application, the fee, the county development charge was all provided. So if we didn't have the delay in sorting out the environmental condition and how to address that to allow the project to move forward, I think we would have been in a position to issue a permit prior to March 1. The Peto McCallum letters came in January 22nd, February 11th, and then importantly on March 7th, we had the confirmation of the preliminary groundwater, which was indicating that it was clean. So if the project had been eligible prior to March 1, I would note that the timeline related to the development would require occupancy before March 1 of 2020. And the developer expects to have occupancy later in 2019. And if Council wishes to enter into an agreement to forgive the development charges, I'm recommending to you to maintain the spirit of the development charges holiday, which was to encourage development and to get occupancy, that you would include that condition in the agreement. So it would require occupancy before March 1 of 2020. If Council was looking for a second option, another option would be to defer the development charges until the time of residential occupancy, which would give the developers not tie the money up front, but would delay that payment. I would know that the developer did pay the development charge last week, and on that basis the permit was issued, but he had at the same time sent along the request. So the recommendation is that, considering the request by the developer, that Council would approve a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement to waive the residential charge with a timeline for residential occupancy of March 1, 2020.
Good, thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd be happy to move that recommendation to completely waive the development charges. It's too bad in our agenda tonight, under 12G, I'll be doing a verbal report from the Great County Council, and I have some interesting points to make with development charges. I wanted to make note of the letter from Giorgio on the very last line, and I think this is important because when you waive development charges, it creates an incentive to do more. And this one just kind of sticks out at me anyways. Right at the end it says, "Thank you for your assistance and cooperation in this regard and look forward to working with you on this and hopefully other projects." I like that, and that's what we're trying to get to. Thank you.
Other discussion? Seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
Well, my feelings on development charges are pretty well known, or development tax, as I like to think of it as. I have a caution or a concern here that there may be others coming after this, and I hope that we're prepared to. I guess first, I think the information in this report is good. This particular nature of material, I wonder why there's a recommendation that's on the report. Like, I understand staff want to do their best for council, but every project or several projects out there may come forward and they'll all have different merits. They'll be looking for different special treatment, and we're going to be asked to choose now one-on-one when we had a firm set of guidelines in place March 1, and if this is the path we want to go, is there an appetite that we need to take a more fulsome look at the development charge bylaws? We have it in place. We know it's for review next year. Our growth in Owen Sound last year was paltry, almost like barely above zero. Are we achieving the objectives that we're wanting this to attain for us? And I mean, if we want to take a more fulsome look at it ahead of other ones that are going to perhaps come, I would have no concern with that. But I think council should really be thinking here that there's other projects, and where do we draw the line as to what one's got special circumstances that merit special treatment here.
Other comments? Go ahead.
As a new councillor, excuse me, through your worship, I would find it extremely helpful to have that conversation as we move forward. I do believe that this potentially is a slippery slope where we will be getting other requests, and I understand why they're asking. However, it would be helpful for us all to understand if the intent now is the same as when it was initially implemented, or have things changed. Has it gained what the council previously intended to gain? And to almost have that critical analysis done before we proceed to make a decision that then sets a pattern whereby we could be caught in having made one decision. How do you justify if you choose to make a different decision? I would like to know, by delaying or waiving this development fee, is there a revenue lost to the city through the waiving of this fee?
Go ahead, Ms. Coulter or Mr. Ritchie.
Certainly, anytime the city or any municipality waives fees, are the revenues lost? Yes, there are. Our development charges are collected for future growth, or for growth that will cause the municipality to have to expand their services in the future. Council made that decision several years ago in order to stimulate growth today, to waive that income for an extended period. Staff believe this particular application, Mr. Hederi has worked very hard. He has, in fact, quite frankly, shown us a different way to look at record of site conditions. It was new to us. I think it's relatively new to the province. The first meeting we had, we said we would work with him in good faith looking at that new method. He, in fact, backed up what he said and showed us from other municipalities who do that. So we've learned something through this. Certainly, he has expedited the work there to an extent that I, quite frankly, haven't seen in a long time. I believe he will meet the full spirit of what council intended when you waive those development charges, growth today. But are you waiving some revenue? Yes, you are. We're not going to say you're not. But that was always council's intent, to get something happening in this town in a very stagnant period. And I believe this is meeting the spirit of what council's intent was. We do, or we wouldn't have put that recommendation in.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Oh, yes, sure. I hadn't.
Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Councillor Gregg?
In favor?
Councillor Hanley?
In favor.
Councillor Kepke?
In favor.
Councillor Merton?
Opposed.
Councillor Tamming?
In favor.
Councillor Thomas?
In favor.
In favor?
In favor? Oh, in favor.
The resolution is carried with 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Good. Thank you. As we can go back to report 12A, which is from Ms. Bloomfield with regard to appointment of the deputy clerk.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to welcome Ethan Robert to the City of Owen Sound team, and the purpose of this report is to get him officially appointed as a deputy clerk.
Thank you. Marion? Councillor Kepke, excuse me.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to welcome Ethan here. I worked with his mother through AMCTO on professional development team, and if Ethan at least follows his mom's quarter of her path, he'll go a long way. His mom just completed her term as president of AMCTO, and we're certainly proud of her, and I'm sure happy to welcome Ethan here. So I'm happy to move the resolution.
Doesn't matter where you go, what you do, somebody's got a connection to your mother and is going to report. All in favor? That is carried. Welcome. 12B, with regard to downtown parking, Mr. Richard, Ms. Bloomfield. Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship, the DIA board passed several recommendations respecting downtown parking, which are now being brought forward to council for approval. The DIA board is recommending that the monthly parking pass rate be changed from $45 to $30, and after the 15th of the month, from $30 to $20. They have provided recommendations for wording of parking signs and several enforcement recommendations, including the lots having free parking up to 5 hours, all other downtown parking being a maximum of 2 hours, and enforcement changing from 9 to 6 to 9 to 5, and parking pass revenue being split between the DIA and the city. Staff are recommending that council approve the recommendations from the DIA board, except the clause about the ticket fine. It is currently $15 if paid within 14 days and $25 if paid after that, and staff are not recommending a change to that fine. Should council approve the recommendations from the DIA board, changes need to be made to the traffic bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw, both of which are outlined in the report. The motion in the report is to approve the DIA resolution, save and accept item D in resolution number DIA 19-0306-004. Direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to amend the traffic bylaw. Direct staff to apply for a revised set fine order with the Ministry of the Attorney General. Direct staff to provide notice of the city's intention to amend the fees and charges bylaw, and bring forward a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw.
Good, thank you. Hello. Are we there? Go ahead, Councillor Gregg.
I'll move the recommendations, and I'd like to probably just add that the DIA chair in the last year, Dave Parsons, has done a very good job, I think, publicly, chasing this along, representing his board. So I think that just kind of needs to be noted. He's not shied away. It's been a bit of a, there's been some conflict at times, as well as the city manager is well aware of. It hasn't been easy. There's been some very good questions raised along the way, but the board has done a good job, and Dave Parsons has shown a year of pretty solid leadership getting to this report here tonight. So I'll move the report in front of us.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. 12C, I think Ms. Allen?
I'll be delivering this one, Your Worship. Okay. The subject of this report is award of RFT 19-014, First Avenue East reconstruction. And the recommendation is award to EC King Contracting, the lowest compliant bid received at their corrected tender price of $2,936,905, including contingencies of $200,000. Approve allocating the 2019 federal gas tax top-up to fund the variance between budget and actual, and approve allocating the unbudgeted increase in the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund grant to any additional shortfall should the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund program be amended. With the award of this contract, we begin Phase 1 of the Downtown River Precinct. Beginning in August of 2012, the community and council have envisioned change to the downtown core. Along with replacement of aging water, wastewater, and road structures, key goals include improving the character and perception of the area, creating inviting and inclusive public space, and highlight the natural environment of the Sydenham River. There has been strong interest from those who live in the area, who own property or operate businesses in the area, and many others in the community. Since 2012, there have been numerous public meetings, discussions, and reports to council and committees. The conceptual design has been amended, and amended again. All of this input, design work, and time spent in meetings has been worth it. The final design includes many elements that came through the public dialogue. For downtown to prosper in the long term, the atmosphere needs to be one where people want to be. There is increased interest in people coming back downtown to live. Condominium developments at Sydenham and Center Suites on 3rd Avenue are encouraging. Georgian Landings, 39 apartment units on 2nd Avenue East, and the site plan approval of Strathcona School's 69 apartment units will bring more families into this area. The time is right. The tender results are over budget. Staff have recommendations to fund the project that do not affect any other projects and will allow Phase 1 of the Downtown River Precinct to go ahead as the community has envisioned. I ask your worship for approval of the recommendations to award RFT 19043. I might mention some of the public meetings this evening demonstrate to me that the east side commercial of this town is going to grow as well. I think we need to invest in the downtown core. We're doing that with sponsored parking. I believe the Downtown River Precinct truly will be the catalyst the downtown needs to prosper in the coming decades, and this is the start of it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? I've got one question, Mr. Ritchie. This Phase 1 is the biggest chunk of the project, correct?
We believe that, Your Worship, yes.
So it's going from both sides of the river, 8th Street to a little south of 8th Street to 10th Street.
That's the full build-out, correct.
And this Phase 1 covers that full area?
The full build-out will be both sides, east and west of 1st Avenue, all the way from the 8th Street Bridge to the 10th Street Bridge. This phase will be the 800 block of 1st Avenue East.
So with the infrastructure that's there, that will be the biggest chunk because we're moving.
That's correct. This will be what we consider, quite honestly, to be the civic square, the showpiece of the entire downtown core.
Good, thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Rabbi. A couple questions to start, I guess. At budget, we saw financing source OCIF for $1.89 million on the budget card. Did that just include construction and engineering on the road, or was that just in generality to the project?
The OCIF funding was only eligible for core road-related infrastructure.
At that time. I guess I'm wondering what other, or what I think is lacking here for council to see in the report is what other strategic needs do we have, or what other needs are there for the OMPF increase, which we've got some funding sources here, which are perhaps one-time, single shots, and I agree right on initially it went into a reserve, which I thought was excellent, because we haven't had that discussion. We were told 2 years ago at operations we would have a 5-year look at the biggest, most pressing needs in front of the city. And that didn't happen, but I hope that we will have that in the near future. So we will have a foundation, we'll have some groundwork so that council can be aware of what are the most pressing needs in front of us. We don't have that right now, and I am very reluctant. In fact, I don't support spending monies that we don't technically even have until we've even measured it against other pressing scenarios in the city. Like, we have had our burden to the taxpayer in 2017 just rise to 6.7% in the last BMA study that we're now aware of. That went from 6 flat. And we know that a year from now, we're looking at doing East Bay Shore Road because we have pumping capacity pump houses that we have to bring, that we have to rehabilitate. And we're looking at one on the west side at the Legion that we've got engineering putting measuring sticks on it right now to see if this thing is failing structurally. So we have really pressing needs for some of these funds, and we haven't given it a fulsome look at measuring this against that. I opened up the bids and tenders website because this is, well, we budgeted $520,000 for landscaping. The roads came in under, great. The landscaping, we budgeted $520,000 for. The tenders, $1.2 million. We're $689,000 over on landscaping. So I opened up the bids and tenders, and a lot of it, you know, it's foreign to me. It's stones, it's brickwork, but we've got things in the tender document that we must purchase this product, these picnic tables from a certain vendor. We've got. I think there was a purchase of a bike rack that would be engraved with the City of Owen Sound on it. There was a bike repair station. And we've got a bike repair station at the library just 125 meters away. And I'm like, okay, now at what point, like, maybe this should come back, or staff should take this back and tweak it more so, and it should come back to council, or council should be more aware of just what are we building here, because I don't think we've got a real, we've just got there's an idea out there, but right now it looks very expensive and I can't support that.
Mr. Richard, go ahead.
If I could, Your Worship, and certainly good comments, Councillor Gregg. I would be much happier if I was sitting here tonight and this came back on budget. I can only tell you we met with the public numerous times to make sure that this wasn't only council's vision or only staff's vision, it was a community vision of what they want to see. How will we face the future in the best way for the citizens of Owen Sound? We'll get more people to come here and live. I have said to council before, I've said to the public, as I've sat in this office for 4 years, everyone who comes in, I ask them, what brought you to Owen Sound? Why are you bringing your business here? Why are you thinking of building here? They have never said to me, because your roads are the greatest in Ontario. And I'm not trying to be facetious. They always say, it is the soft services. It is the library. It is the Tom Thompson. It is your park-like setting. And we know from the surveys we've done internally, the Sydenham River is something this city truly has that many of our competitors do not have. This plan will focus on the Sydenham River. So as far as how we're going to fund this in the future, certainly some of it will be. I think this will lead us to having more people not only coming downtown, certainly the people who move here want something to do here. Coming downtown with a park-like setting will solve so many issues for downtown, but also for Owen Sound itself. I hear that over and over again. I'm going to discuss later this evening, I believe, the comments about the downtown washroom. It's initiatives like this that over time will help us with some of those issues. So I believe firmly in this project. I have from probably about 2013. Again, I wish it was on budget. Staff have provided options that will not affect the taxpayer currently. I will assure you, over the years, engineering would have what they consider are the projects we have to do. And God bless Dennis, but all of our directors of engineering would not leave a penny for anything else in this city. We're trying to make sure that we grow this city in a way that the citizens today will like, the citizens of 10 years will like, and hopefully the citizens 50 years from now will like. And if that means, quite frankly, that roads maybe have to wait a year or two, they may have to. They may have to, but we're certainly paving $500,000 of roads every year, as well as new work, and there will be new roads in this particular part of the work. So I believe strongly in this. I can't answer all your questions. There is somewhat a leap of faith here, but we have put so many hours of all of our time and the community's time now. I really think, and certainly with the timelines we had to get this done in 16 weeks, I have to tell you, I don't think there's any more time to go back and look at this again and come back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I believe we'll have missed our window for this year. And if we miss our window this year, we certainly aren't doing it in 2020 because the 10th Street Bridge will fully take up all of our time there. But that's my opinion, that's my thoughts, and I've laid them out for you. But I certainly respect countering opinions.
Councillor Thomas.
I'm glad you brought up the timing, because that's one of the things that I've been struggling with here. You know, here we are faced with another major decision that we weren't anticipating, and time is of the essence, and if we don't move, then everything's going to be delayed. And, you know, this happens every now and again, and I understand that, that when you are putting things out to tender, you can't anticipate what's going to come back. I guess, you know, I had a lot of comments to make. I guess I have a question. I mean, is it possible in some way to phase some of the landscaping so that we're not putting all of this in right now? And you know, my concern is that we're looking at a $600,000 touch before we even put a shovel in the ground down there. So what else are we going to be facing once we do that, you know? And I'll think back to the 8th Street Hill in 2015, which, of course, we had some problems that we had to deal with. Anyone who's renovated a home knows. It's in there waiting for you. There's something in there waiting for you, and whether it's the spruce water pipes or the you know, 1867 water mains or whatever it is we're going to deal with down there, I think there's going to be things. And what really concerns me is this is just prior to the 10th Street Bridge, which is another huge project, and what overruns are we going to face with that? What else are we going to face with that project? So I'm struggling a little bit with the idea of an extra $600,000 right off the top, and I just wonder, you know, clearly the road, okay, it came in under budget, we can go ahead with that and not worry about it. Are there some portions of the landscaping that we could push off? Knowing that we're going to be finishing this around the fall, are there some things we could push off until the following year just to sort of bring that cost down a little bit so that we're not taking a big hit all at once?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, there are maybe one or two smaller items in terms of the furniture. Maybe the we have a shelter for bicycles that's included in the Percy England Parkette. But in terms of the hard surfacing portion of the landscaping, there's really no alternative. It's either using a different type of material in a temporary basis and then coming back. And when we do that, we're looking at additional MOB and demob charges. You're looking at removals of this temporary material to put in the bricks. The bricks are considered an enhancement. They're attractive. That's what will make the area inviting. If we went with the traditional concrete and asphalt, it would be a very bleak finish to what we want to be considered the cornerstone of the downtown river precinct. It would be pretty much like building a mall and not having that anchor tenant. Your mall won't be very successful. In this case, the additional costs in future years won't be nearly as much as what we're going to spend this year. But again, you'll find that this will attract people. You'll have naysayers saying that this isn't worthwhile. But in my experience, we built a very similar thing in Yellowknife, the Sambique Plaza, and we had about 65% of the people were for it. After we built it, we had about 95% of the people for it. As soon as they saw the first major event that we had there, people thought it was the greatest idea the city ever came up with in Yellowknife, and I believe this project would be even bigger and better than that, given the location. We've already invested a huge amount of money in City Hall to keep City Hall downtown. This will be another key project to enhance the heart of our city. And right now, I mean, we're going to deal a lot with the, we're going to improve the pavilion at the farmers market to make it more attractive, make it more inviting, more usable. We're going to create a promenade or courtyard area to what used to be the old First Avenue East, just between the current pavilion and the Sydenham River. This area, again, would be a programmable area for outdoor vendors for any events that we want to have. There will be another gathering spot north of the pavilion, again, the main cornerstone where people will be gathering. And we'll have proper linkages to 2nd Avenue East, as well as 9th Street on the north and 8th Street on the south. I mean, it is an expensive proposition, but we should do it right. We shouldn't take any shortcuts at this time. In Yellowknife, what we did is we priced out pavers. They're very expensive, especially with the shipping up there to Yellowknife, and we ended up putting asphalt in and then stamping the asphalt. And that was the one thing that I regret doing, was doing that. I said we should have found the money to put in pavers, because it would have enhanced the project that much more. It was a successful project, but it could have been that much better. And I think if you look at our city, what do we have? We have red brick buildings. They're very attractive. Again, you just don't want to have just hard surfacing of asphalt and concrete. You want something that's enhanced, that ties in with the kind of history that our city was built on. And I think using the paving stones, while a little bit more expensive, are adding to the project and making this project a real keystone project in the development of the downtown river precinct. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but we could have a few savings on a couple of furniture items that we could maybe push to the following year, but it would be a significant amount.
Okay for now? Okay, Councillor Tamming.
Thank you, Dennis, for that. And I share the concerns of Councillor Thomas and Greg that a shovel hasn't gone in the ground, and we're well over twice the budget we had for landscaping, which puzzles me, and perhaps we can speak in a different forum about that, how that can happen. It just really troubles me. That said, too many cities in North America have turned their backs on their rivers, and we were one of them. And we treated it like a back alley that people frankly did not want to associate with. And I share the passion of our city manager. I did the minute I heard about this project, I said, this is it. And every now and then, a council has to be visionary and not think about what's necessary, not think about what's absolutely minimally needed to run a city, but that which might excite the public imagination. So I support this. I wish I could say unequivocally, but I'll use that word unequivocally. I am disappointed by the overage. I think in the long term we'll get through it. And to Councillor Thomas's point, when I came tonight, I thought, yeah, let's maybe split the landscaping in two. Any of us who have ever been involved in something similar, even on our own private scale projects and so forth, often that sounds great. It just doesn't work out, hauling the equipment back and doing it a second time. So I'm going to vote in favor of this, and I believe council would be rewarded.
Councillor Hamley, did you have your hand up as well? No? Okay. Councillor Koepke.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I wonder if staff could review the granting possibilities on this project. I know there are some in place and potentially more money may be coming.
At this time, you'd like us to do that, Councillor? Kate, can you do that?
Certainly. So as the report summarizes, the intention through our entire budget process and up to this point was to use the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund to fund the core road-related costs for this project. And that is a fund that has been implied to be an ongoing, stable, formula-based funding for the next several years. We did receive some communication recently from the minister that they are looking at that OCIF program, and there may be changes to it. So our reliance on those sorts of funds is not certain until we know what the future of that program looks like. In order to cover the overage, as those landscaping costs are not eligible for OCIF funding, we are recommending that we apply a source of funding that was recently announced in the federal budget, and that is for a one-time top-up federal gas tax influx. And they comment that they are going to double the amount that municipalities receive in this year. So for the City of Owen Sound, that would be approximately $650,000, and that is the recommended source to cover the overage on the landscaping and the structure costs.
Thank you. Given that information, I think everyone has thought long and hard about how we're going to manage this project, and I think those bases have been covered. So when the vote is taken, I would ask for a recorded vote.
So if I can speak to it, I've maybe got in some ways the longest history in the room on this. We were still in business on Main Street when somebody named Eric Clough came to town with Main Street Canada funding to redo the fronts of buildings, and they're looking at redoing the back. Between 9th Street and 10th Street on 1st Avenue East, they put in inlaid brick and put in parking meters, which upset us as business owners that we weren't parking for free in the back alley. And I think Councillor Gregg and I kind of had that, we had that conversation maybe a little bit earlier. So there's been a desire, 40 years approximately, to try and clean up the river, try and do something with it. We look at Stratford, if you're ever down there, and the beauty of their river and what they've done with it. And their main street's a little bit further from the river. They've got nice flat parkland, but it just kind of ties it together, and we might have an advantage being closer. I was there when we first had the meetings in 2012, and at that point the ceiling had fallen in on this place, and we were up at the county building for public meetings, and we had 2 meetings or 1, I don't remember. I think it was 2 up there, and there were 50 to 100 people packed in there, very positive on all of it. There have been people that are dead against it, but for the majority of people that I talk to, they're excited about this. If you look at how we put off City Hall and then had to put a lot of money into City Hall because we had put it off for so long, and think about it the same way, we've been 40 years looking at the river and not doing anything, and it is more expensive. I'm of 2 minds. I'm not excited about it being over budget to such an extent on the landscaping. But I guess, you know, we don't do a lot of landscaping. We rely on our parks staff to do parks. We don't necessarily go out and do big contracts for landscaping, so where do you begin? I recall that we missed on landscaping around the wastewater treatment plant. Maybe it didn't go over budget. Maybe it was just a big budget. I can't remember, but it was landscaping is expensive. You know, we've just finally, after 70 years, removed parking meters to a certain extent downtown, trying to promote our downtown. I know in everything that I'm reading in economic development that I'm looking at, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, millennialpreneurs that we've spent a lot of money trying to attract through RU Most, look for lifestyle. They're looking for a community that they can enjoy, and then they're figuring out what they're going to do to earn a living once they're here. It's a lot different than my generation that went to Fort McMurray for $16 an hour, and, you know, it was I shouldn't badmouth Fort McMurray. It was not an enviable or enjoyable lifestyle to be there. It was it's a great history, not to tell my children. So we've got a different generation, and they're commenting on the beauty of our downtown. They're commenting on this project coming up. We've maybe got a horseshoe around our necks. That there is funding that has come in that maybe we didn't expect. If we didn't get that, we'd really be in trouble. But it is there. Yeah, I would have liked to have had a kick at that can to see what we could do with that money, where else we could have put it into reserves, think ahead, and have some really good thought. But at the same point, we've been working on this for 7 years, and we're here now. And again, if we put it off, it is going to be 3 or 4 more years by the time we get past 10th Street. So I think we need to move ahead is my opinion. But I'm sorry I skipped over you. Go ahead.
Sorry, do we have a motion yet? Okay, I'd be happy to move the recommendation. I'm not disappointed one bit. I want to thank staff for all their work. This is a great project. I'm looking forward to it. I'm with Councillor Tamming. This is going to be beautiful. We're landscaping. That's what we're doing. We're making this a beautiful project. We should be proud of it. Now's not the time to sit on the fence. Let's move forward. Thanks.
So you've moved it, and Councillor Kepke asked that it's a recorded vote. Anyone else? Seeing none, go ahead.
Councillor Gregg?
Opposed?
Councillor Hanley?
In favor.
Councillor Kepke?
In favor.
Councillor Merton?
In favor.
Councillor Tamming?
In favor.
Councillor Thomas?
In favor.
In favor.
Your microphone's gone off. In favor?
The resolution is carried with 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. So what are we at? We're at 12D, which I think is your report with regard to, Ms. Bloomfield, with regard to Downtown Board of Management, DIA Board of Management.
Thank you, Your Worship. The public appointments on the DIA board end March 31st, and there are 8 vacancies. The DIA received 8 applications for the board, all of whom are being presented to council for appointment for the term of council. In reviewing the Municipal Act, it has been determined that the council appointments to the DIA board should also be for the term of council. Staff are recommending that the current council members on the DIA board have their terms extended. The Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport requires that the board and committee bylaw specifically notes the heritage aspect of the Community Services Committee mandate. Staff are recommending that the bylaw be amended to include this clause.
Thank you. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Go ahead, Councillor Kepke.
I will move the recommendation, but just a question on the November 14, 2022 date. Is that election time, or what is that?
With the changes in the Municipal Act, the term of council has changed. So the new term would begin November 15th, which is earlier than previous.
So in the report, there's 2 choices, one being the recommendation that the councillors that are elected now go right to the end of the term of November 14th, 2022. The other option was that the councillors that are there now would complete their 1-year term when we reselect in approximately a year, that then they would go on for 3 years. I suppose there's a couple of councillors there now, if they adamantly are opposed to being on for 4 years, or, you know, somebody needs to pick one or the other options and move it, I guess. So, someone want to move it? Oh, you did already. Okay, you moved the recommendation as is. Okay. All in favor? That is carried. We did 12E already, 12F. Mr. Kafalis, I think.
Through your worship, this staff report is seeking approval to increase the original purchase order for the detailed design of the Downtown River Precinct Phase 1 in the amount of $65,000 to cover additional costs associated with the actual scope of the project, material testing, and environmental assessment. The PO with the increase will still be within the allocated budget for engineering.
Councillors, any councillors have any comments? Anything you want to discuss? Motions? Anything like that?
If I could, Your Worship, I certainly, over the last 4 or 5 months, have met a number of times at an engineering office, which isn't my forte. I can tell you, and it does revolve around the tremendous amount of public input that we received. We asked GM Blue Plan, as I mentioned earlier in my report, not only to give us the conceptual plans to begin with, we changed those on an almost bi-weekly basis. Even when they got into the final design to send out to tender, we were changing those ad nauseum to make sure we met the needs of the community. So in fairness to GM Blue Plan, their original estimate to do this work did not include by any means the number of revisions that, quite frankly, to make sure this was going to meet the needs of our public, that we asked them to do more than I ever would have imagined. So that's all I can say on that.
I move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tamming. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Welcome back. 12G, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. Grey County report, we had a delegation from the Grey County Federation of Agriculture. They are concerned the average farm assessment will have increased 70% over the 4-year assessment period. They want to reduce the farm tax rate from 25% to 24% of the residential rate in the tax policy report. At this point, among the treasurers of lower tier municipalities, there is no appetite to lower the rate. Director of Corporate Services Kevin Wepler will be presenting a full report on April 11th, and Council is expected to make a decision at that time. County Council dealt with the development charges deferral request from Richard Graham of Sound Lifestyles Limited regarding the 9th Avenue East Estates development and Barry's construction for the Strathcona School development. The development charges are normally paid out before a building permit is issued, and they have asked for the payment to be deferred until the first occupancy permit is issued. Council approved both parts of the recommendation, the first being the deferred payments, and the second being that staff prepare a background report outlining potential changes to the development charges bylaw that would encourage construction of purpose-built rental housing, secondary units, residential construction by nonprofit housing organizations, and that would give consideration to any changes the province may be making to the Development Charges Act to encourage more affordable housing. These changes are expected from the provincial government later in 2019. The theory is that there's a trickling down effect when rental units are built. Using the Strathcona development as an example, those units will rent for $900 to $1,100 a month. There will be renters that are paying $750 to $900 a month that will make the jump to a brand new unit for $100 more a month, paving the way for attainable housing at lower rents. Waiving development charges completely for rental units may be the only way as councillors to contribute to affordable and attainable housing. If, for example, a developer saves $200,000 to $300,000 in development charges for a complex, it really provides an incentive for the developer to do another. This has to be considered at least until we get the vacancy rate up to the 3% to 4% range. Right now, our vacancy rate is at 1.1% to 2.5%, so we have a long way to go. An update on the Regional Skills Training, Trade and Innovation Center. The development of the center is progressing. As you know, it is located at the former Sydenham School site adjacent to Georgian College. The current status activities include Small Business Incubator Group is organizing as a not-for-profit. RFP to daycare service is prepared. Georgian College is approved for new apprenticeship programs. To date, the following new apprenticeship programs have been approved for Georgian College: construction electrician, industrial electrician, millwright, hairstyling, and educational assistant. Georgian College is still waiting on approval for boilermaker and automotive technician apprenticeships. Grey County has applied the federal funding program to cost share $1.3 million towards the Innovation Center. The next steps include securing the funding, planned renovations to the building, Georgian College space requirements, industry consultations, and updating the business plan. Thank you, Your Worship.
And I can't remember, do we move receipt of that report? It's been so long. Okay, good. That's what I thought. Any questions for Deputy Mayor O'Leary on that? Seeing none, thank you. 13, consent agenda.
Through your worship, on the consent agenda this evening is 2 reports from the facilities booking coordinator respecting operating agreements with Owen Sound Junior and Senior lacrosse teams. There are minutes for receipt from the Festival of Northern Lights Board, the Police Board, the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation, and the Owen Sound Housing Company. Business licenses were issued to Harborview Roofing at 1250 2nd Ave West, Education Excellence Canada at 994 2nd Ave East, and Starbucks at 1150 16th Street East. Lastly, there is correspondence, which is presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13H.
Good, thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Moved by myself that City Council receives items 13A to 13H on the consent agenda dated April 1st, 2019, and further that the recommendations contained in reports 13A to 13B be approved.
And all in favor? That is carried. If we can go back through Festival of Northern Lights, Councillor Thomas, anything to report?
Nothing specific, Your Worship. It's that magical time of year where there's lots of planning and brainstorming of what exhibits there might be for next year and planning for fundraising and all that kind of stuff.
And so does the return of snow kind of help the planning of the Festival of Northern Lights? Or?
No.
No, okay. Owen Sound Police Services Board, Councillor Kepke, anything to report?
Thank you, Your Worship. Collision statistics for the month of January reported 22 on the east side and 14 on the west side, with 7 in parking lots and 9 who failed to remain at the scene. There were 11 Highway Traffic Act violations and a total of 19 on-duty ride checks, where 705 drivers were checked, which resulted in 13 Highway Traffic Act charges or cautions. The auxiliary unit contributed 147 hours in addition to assistance with the Festival of Northern Lights and prison security during a 2-day storm event. Top contributors had 25 and 17 hours respectively. The community safety officers exploring a partnership with the Student Driving Learners Program to provide education on distracted and alcohol drug impaired driving to enrolled students and is actively engaged in all elementary school teaching of the KIDS program to grade 6 students. Preparations are underway for the spring rollout of the Community Safety Village. The Drug Enforcement Unit and other health-related agencies have seen a number of recent overdose incidents that have required medical intervention and appear to be linked to the use of fentanyl. 2 fentanyl trafficking investigations were completed. Police services conducted 87 custody transportations, and special constables reported 1,107 hours. At the courts, 23 knives were identified and turned away, with most being pocket knives. 1,409 criminal record checks were conducted in the month of January, with 752 of these attending at the front counter, the remainder being conducted for agencies contracted with OSPS within a 15-minute turnaround time. OSPS hosted the Zone 5 meeting on March 19, where it was noted that Bill 68, the new Police Services Act, has received first and second reading. Third reading and royal assent is expected in late spring. Once the regulations have been written, final enforcement will not be expected until January 2020. Until that time, the current act is in force. An information meeting was hosted by the Healthy Communities Committee regarding community safety and well-being planning. New legislation mandates that police be involved in this planning, and OSPS has been at the situation table for years and are familiar with the planning to coincide with the new legislation. Members will be reviewing changes to the Police Services Act as they are adopted. OSPS will be hosting some job training in partnership with RCMP, which will be a 3-day warrant and human source management course for frontline officers. This training will also be offered to outlying police services. In accordance with the mandate on the Police Services Act, the Chief filed various year-end reports. And just to note, there will be a deputation in the near future on the service analysis at the police services.
Okay, questions? Seeing none. Next is Owen Sound Municipal Non-Profit Housing Corporation and the Owen Sound Housing Company. Councillor Merton.
Through your worship. Just wanted to update you on the status. So the new build, which is phase 3, now has 8 units and 1 community room. There will be a total of 12 persons moving in on May the 1st. And the chair has asked that I express a thank you for obviously federal and provincial funding which has allowed this to happen. And also that the city, a thank you to the city for the loan arrangement that has allowed them to bridge the time frame before the funding actually arrives. And that's my update on the last meeting.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, so we're down to number 14 in the agenda, which is committee minutes with recommendations for approval, starting with accessibility advisory. I'm not sure if it's Councillor Gregg or Councillor Merton that's going to present. Councillor Merton.
Through your worship. So, at the meeting that was held March the 25th, we accomplished the following. We elected a chair, myself, and agreed by motion to select a vice chair by nomination at our next meeting when all the members could be present. We completed the committee orientation for all members, and this was presented by the Director of Community Services. We reviewed the site plan review at Gwendon Townhouses, and this was presented by the intermediate planner. We passed a motion to recommend that in terms of matters relating to accessibility, Council approve the site approval application for 1832 7th Avenue East. We reviewed the site plan proposal for the former Strathcona School located at 1185 4th Avenue East, presented by the community planner, and we passed a motion that Council approve the site plan approval based on accessibility. In addition, we reviewed the site plan proposal for the Downtown River Precinct presented by the Director of Public Works and Engineering, and we passed a motion that Council approve the site plan proposal for the Downtown River Precinct as presented with respect to the accessibility. We received correspondence for information, including the Mobility Transit Dashboard presented by the Director of Community Services, the election report regarding the accessibility and general overview presented by the City Clerk, and we have some actions that need to be done in the future. So we have requested in future meetings that there is input to City staff when consulted regarding the multi-year accessibility plan, the ME-app or My-app, and that we receive an update from the Director of Public Works and Engineering regarding the 5-year capital plan for new sidewalks and the current functioning status of the audible pedestrian signals. Staff is to provide information back to the committee regarding the installation of the tactile walking surface indicators at the intersection of 6th Avenue East and 20th Street East. Interestingly enough, which was interesting to me as my first chairing opportunity, we talked about doggy doo-doo. So staff is to report back to the committee regarding the concept of a dog relief station or other options regarding signage, extra bags, and anything that would help to support a clean environment, not only for the Downtown River Precinct, but throughout Owen Sound. I hope that's not a sign of my future tenure as chair, but it was an interesting discussion. So I move that the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting held on March 25th, 2019 be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved.
Any questions? All in favor? That is, that carries. I can tell you from experience that that dog-eat-doo-doo issue isn't something that you want to step into too aggressively. It can get you into trouble. Thank you. Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's only one item to report from the March 20th meeting. Back in August of 2018, Owen Sound Minor Hockey Group raised concerns respecting the allocation of ice. Council requested that staff present a report to Community Services Committee at the end of the minor hockey season respecting an analysis of the reasons for canceled ice. Throughout the 2018-19 season, staff has tracked changes made to ice rentals by each minor sports organization. The Owen Sound Ringette canceled 25 hours, which is 24% of the requested ice. Owen Sound Skating Club canceled 5 hours, which was 1.89% of requested ice. Owen Sound Girls Hockey canceled 184.5 hours, which is 26% of the requested ice. And Owen Sound Minor Hockey canceled 375 hours, which is 16.45% of the requested ice. Staff has also put a dollar value on the canceled ice as well. Obviously, there are a variety of reasons for canceled ice, and some are unavoidable. But with that said, we have to put a policy in place to help prevent so much canceled ice. Representatives from the Owen Sound Minor Hockey Group were in attendance at the meeting, and they believe the numbers presented are both confusing and misleading. They have an understanding of the report, but didn't have enough time to analyze the data prior to the meeting. Community Services Committee was happy to extend the time for the Owen Sound Minor Hockey Group to analyze the data and report back to the next meeting on the 17th of April. Councillor Merton had some really good suggestions, including a policy that would allow the tracking and process to be fair and equitable. She also suggested a policy that allows a maximum amount of ice that can be canceled after a contract is signed, and suggested an open and fair process allowing input from minor sports groups as well. So I think it's important to listen to Owen Sound Minor Hockey Group and get their reasons for the canceled ice so we can move forward towards a fair policy. And again, that will happen on the 17th of April. And with that, Your Worship, I move approval of those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. I'll get you to move the closed one at 14C. Right? Yep. You're just moving that.
Minutes of the closed session of the Community Services Committee meeting on March 20th, 2019.
Being moved. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. 14D, minutes of the Operations Committee from March 12th. Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Mayor Buddy. Just an administrative note right off the top. Item 5A says moved by Councillor, and it's looking for an answer. It's moved by Member King, just for the record. We had a review of the 2019 capital projects, which are going to keep this city very busy, starting right, well, pretty much any day now. The first tender for the water main work has been issued, and it's being ratified in the bylaws tonight. So that's right around the corner. But the committee, you know, it's another arm of making sure that we get the proper information disseminated out in the public in terms of the impact of the work that's going to be going on downtown. And at this point, we're still, you know, we're looking at October as the go date on the bridge. So the more you get that accurate information out in the public, that's everybody has a better understanding and responds much more favorably. But all in all, we had a light agenda. We had some discussion regarding the Owen Sound Airport. I'm going to speak with the Chair of Economic Development, because some of the committee members had some interest in what types of marketing initiatives the city has ongoing right now. We also had just some correspondence, I guess, on keeping Bruce Grey, Owen Sound clean and beautiful. The committee, it's a 45-day comment period. Members of the public may be interested in commenting, but the provincial government right now has it's actually ironic, it's a 54-page environmental plan, but the last page is blank, so it's a waste of paper. But that's just on a funny side note. So anyway, the members of the public can go in and comment on initiatives that they think would be valuable moving forward for Ontario. And we've got the ability for any ideas or input from committee to still come forward to the April meeting for any discussion. We've also had a little bit of discussion on looking forward in terms of the new transit contract, which is down the road in 2021. And I should note, we've got an appendix attached here, just for public information on the road work, which has been approved by council this year. There is 5 distinctly different projects there. One is 10th Street West, so proceeding up the West Hill from 4th Avenue to 7th Avenue West is going to get some much needed repair this year. 16th Street East from 12th Avenue East to 18th Avenue East will get some much needed work. And the other 3 projects are downtown and are all in partnership, I guess, with or aligned with the detours, which are going to be in use for when the bridge comes out. So those will be repaved, rehabilitated this summer, alongside the work in the downtown River Precinct job. And that's all approved through the budget process. So with that, I would move receipt and approval of those minutes.
Questions? Seeing none. Councillor Gregg, did it come up, we talked before, I wasn't able to attend that meeting. Did single-use plastics come up?
That can be part of any discussion that we have in terms of environmental initiatives for the April meeting.
Okay.
Single-use plastics, plastic bags, you could go on and on, but if it's a green initiative, then that April meeting is an opportunity for us to bring them forward.
Good, because there's a lot of other jurisdictions that have moved ahead of us and some that would surprise you, so it's time to have a look. Okay, calling the questions, that's approval of those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. There's closed sessions.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move approval of the minutes of the closed session of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee meeting held on March 11th, 2019.
All in favor? That is carried. So we have no matters that are postponed. At 16, we have no motions for which notice was previously given. Discussion of additional business was Mr. Ritchie at the top.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today marks the first day of a new era in the downtown core. Downtown Improvement Association and City of Owen Sound sponsored parking. We have all the signage up. I must take a bit of the blame. I perhaps didn't order enough decals, but we have those in order now. I believe the system is working well. I can certainly tell our patrons. Tickets will still be handed out during this period for illegal parking and people not obeying the accessible parking signs. All other tickets for the near future will be warning tickets. And we're certainly open to, again, continuing our discussion with the DIA, making sure the rules fit our public and do help to enhance the downtown core. So, again, I think it's another progressive step, Your Worship.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. This is an open invitation to members of the public to come to the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library this Friday from 4 till 6 p.m. to check out our renovations. If you haven't been into the library, it finally has a floor after a number of years without. The showpiece, though, are the new desks developed by local wood artist Stephen Hogbin. The big desk uses 29 different varieties of local wood, incorporated and laminated into the top, and it's really something to see. So I would certainly invite everyone to come to the library from 4 until 6 on Friday evening, and then if you feel like sticking around, you could take in our program Wild, Weird, and Wacky Weather at 7 o'clock in the library auditorium. The other item I wanted to mention, Your Worship, was the volunteer fair, which is taking place at the library. Many of us in this community have volunteered for many years on various different committees and organizations, and I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that there are a lot of groups and organizations that would not survive in this committee without strong volunteer bases. Now, we all know that the volunteer base is growing older, the traditional volunteers, and I think that this is my call to younger people to come out and volunteer for some of our organizations. So the volunteer fair is taking place on Monday, April the 8th from 2 until 7 p.m. in the library auditorium, and there will be a lot of various groups and organizations there to answer your questions and to try to recruit you as volunteers. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Just two small items tonight. The first item, I think, is there's some signage on the farmers market which notes that the area is under surveillance, but just to clear up any misconceptions out there, the washrooms themselves are obviously not under surveillance. It's the perimeter, and as to why they're closed, perhaps I'll just defer to the city manager, who's more knowledgeable on that subject matter than I.
Certainly, through Your Worship, we have become aware of some illicit activities that have been taking place in the washroom. It's not unlike many other public washrooms. We were concerned with the safety of our staff who clean those washrooms, and in fact we'd had some incidents where we had some concerns they were unsafe cleaning conditions. And once we were frankly unsure of the safety of our own staff, we couldn't in good conscience leave them open to the public. We're looking at options. We're seeing what other municipalities are doing in similar circumstances. I don't have that answer today, but we will have some answer moving forward in the near future.
Thanks, Wayne. And second item is just in regards to the south end of the City Hall. We've got some perimeter landscaping, and there's a little steel lift right adjacent to the sidewalk. And it was brought to my attention last fall. A lady had tripped and fell on it. Subsequently, a member of the Mayor's Growth forum actually went down one evening and sustained an injury from it, and it had been posted and polled over the winter, and those polls have came down. In fact, Saturday night I was walking home from the Putnam County Spelling Bee, which I would add is excellent if you get a chance, and has a surprise ending. It's very, I almost fell myself, and I know it's there. So this individual who fell last year, he was quite upset now seeing those polls and those indicators have been removed. He felt somewhat slighted that his injury did not prove to be a lesson learned. I'm wondering what are our steps moving forward so that we can rectify somewhat of an unsafe situation there.
Through your worship, certainly we will look at the incidents that have happened there, and I just reached out to our manager of property this evening, and those contain the landscaping around those areas. We did put markers up in the wintertime so that the snow plow, the sidewalk plow knew where to be in that space. Perhaps what we could do is, working with Mr. Kafalis and his group, look at sort of engineering standards for how we should be treating these areas proximate to a sidewalk, and that could go either through operations likely or community services. But we can do a follow-up report.
I think that was one of those things that was maybe not foreseen when we were doing the building. I did talk to Ms. Schreider about it at the time because I caught my toe on it. It's only about a 3-inch dark right along the edge of the lip, right along the edge of the sidewalk. That is great if the garden is overflowing, but you need to make sure that it's roped off or protected because it is a real hazard. And I know somebody that in a different point of his career would have been all over it.
Those days are done, Your Worship.
Thanks, and thank you, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. Grace Alva Conservation Foundation is putting on the Earth Film Festival again this year, and it's taking place on April the 18th at the Roxy. And tickets are available at the Roxy. The 2 films being featured, one is Project Wild Thing, and this particular film will be featured for students in the afternoon, and they're able to go for a $2 fee, and I think that that's sold out for the students. But Project Wild Thing is a hilarious real-life story of one man's determination to get children out into the ultimate free wonder product called nature. In the evening as well, the second film will be The Messenger, which chronicles the struggles of songbirds worldwide to survive the turbulent environmental conditions brought about by humans, and argues that their demise could signify the crash of the ecosystems globally, akin to the disappearance of honeybees and the melting of the glaciers. Birds are mankind's early warning system. So both films come highly recommended and will be featured at the Roxy on April the 18th, and tickets are available at the Roxy.
Good, thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had the pleasure of speaking at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery on Saturday afternoon, where the Living Well with Dementia exhibit was on display. There were 10 portraits of some local Alzheimer's Society clients taken by photographer Sophia Lemon. The well-attended event was sponsored by the Grievous Alzheimer's Society, New Horizons, and Sophia Lemon Photography. The exhibit can be viewed during regular business hours at the Tom, Wednesday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the downstairs gallery. Admission is by donation and runs until the 14th of April. Thank you.
You got both? Yep, no, okay, you got it. Good, okay. Last couple of weeks, I attended the 100th anniversary of Zonta Club International. It's about the 36th year in Owen Sound. Zonta's is made up of women with different occupations that support other women and families in our community and across North America. They have grants to help a young woman go to university and scholarships and things. One of them is the Amelia Earhart grant, which is in the States, or funding. And that's funding specifically a woman going into aeronautic engineering and rocket science and stuff. And it's, I was able to tell them, I went a couple years ago to the launch of the last space shuttle, and the woman that we're showing, the woman, got that? The women that are all in their 20s that are the engineers are designing all the spacesuits that they're now using to go out. They're super light. They've got to be hundreds of degrees above 0 to 100 below. I don't know exactly how many. The seals have to remain. It's phenomenally brilliant, and it was, for me, they were way over my head, and this is perhaps influenced to go into that type of business by the Zontas. Chamber of Commerce had their annual general meeting. Mr. Chapman from Chapman's Ice Cream was there to talk about the school discussion in Markdale. I attended the Parks and Recreation of Ontario Educational Forum presented at a session over there, which was elected officials' lens on Parks and Rec. It was fun with a couple of mayors from elsewhere. Want to congratulate those who participated in the polar plunge this year. I didn't. It's for a pretty good cause. It's for Special Olympics, and I know a Special Olympian that's been able to go out of our city several times for several different events that's sitting in the room. So it's great for the polar plunge to be able to provide funds for that, and I think everybody probably had a pretty good time. So thanks to all of them. Guess we're down to number 18 is a motion that the Committee of the Whole rise.
Yep, move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All in favor? That's carried. Motion to adopt proceedings.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Leary. Well, I'm going to get that sooner or later. That the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? That is carried. Notices of motion. Seeing none. Bylaws.
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute an agreement with South Bruce Peninsula ATV Club for ATV access in Owen Sound, a bylaw to adopt the amended records and information management policy, a bylaw to appoint a deputy clerk, a bylaw to appoint DIA members and extend DIA council appointments, a bylaw to clarify the heritage mandate of the Community Services Committee, a bylaw to adopt the municipal cannabis policy statement, a bylaw to amend the delegation of powers and duties bylaw to add commenting authority for cannabis retail store authorization requests, and a bylaw to execute an agreement with McDonnell Excavating respecting water main construction.
Thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Leary, that bylaws number 2019-050 through 058 be passed and enacted.
All in favor? That is carried. That completes our business for tonight. It is 9:22. We adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.